Good morning, everybody. Whether you are logged into Zoom or you are joining us from Facebook, good morning. You know, if I'm bringing out the red pink lip and this glittery jacket, this should tell you. And I actually wore a bra today for our guest today, and brushed my
Ready
teeth
for the
and did
holiday?
my hair. This should tell you we have like a VIP guest. Actually, that's not true. I for the previous guest, I do actually brush my teeth and wash my hair. I've done that before, but I have not worn glitter, David. This is the first time. I dug this out the.
You're ready for the holidays, girl.
Yeah, I dug this out of the old closet just for you, David. So,
Aw.
but thanks everyone for joining us for the 45. My name is Jasmin Brand. I'm the host of this. I hate to say host because I feel like when I say host, there should be some production quality as opposed to this tree from the dollar store and cash behind me, my dog. But it is a show. I'm a Dallas-based entrepreneur, super excited and passionate about bringing the community together. And I've been hosting these for a couple months now. Just as a way to bring us together at the end of the week. I also was feeling just very scattered because of the pandemic and everything that's happened this year. So the 45 was just like 45 minutes to just connect and focus and talk about something else other than everything else. And it's just been an amazing kind of fun revelation to see that I was not the only person that was also feeling scattered, but also too just been inviting really fun special guests to come on and talk about all sorts of topics. This is always 45 minutes and there is a recording and I will share it. And if you're joining us from Facebook Live, hi, thank you so much for joining us. And our guest this morning, I go way back, and I'm hoping he does not reveal the year we graduated, because David, this is private, because I've told several people different things. And B, he does not reveal any of the many embarrassing stories in our. We go way back. We went to SMU together. And David Ninh is my bestie from way back. He actually, and he'll tell us when he moved to New York, but when I was thinking about like a fun topic to discuss, I thought, we're on Zoom, we can't always travel. Yes, we can still do some domestic travel, but a lot of us are still nervous to do so, especially now with the cases surging. And New York is my city. I'm so passionate about it. So I thought, David lives there. I stalked his page. David does some epic things. So I thought it would be great to have him on. If you have questions or comments, or if you got some New York love stories, please join in the comments. You can always turn your camera on too if you like, or you can just stay in the chats as well. So David, without further ado, welcome to the 45.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored that you asked me to join. And I can share whatever you want to talk about.
First two things, David. One, we have to do a toast because we always do. This is our kickoff, right? Bam. Thank you. And then B, let's talk about this hair. This is longer than I've seen before.
My pandemic hair. I think, it's interesting. I think with the pandemic, obviously everybody in the world has been really affected by this. And, one of the things that, I've had to do is really take a step back, look at my money, look at my finances, look at, how I'm presenting myself. And honestly, I have not cut my hair in a year. I was spending like a shitload of money to get my hair cut every few months. And as it was growing, I was like, how often am I really leaving the house? Do I have to get dressed up to impress people? These things I'm pretty sure we're going through a lot of people's minds, especially mine. And it just got to the point where I just got lazy and I was like, you know what? I kind of liking, I've always wanted to have
it.
I
think you should braid it up.
Hair. Like every day it looks a little different. Some days it looks kind of 90s, other days it's like flat, other days it's like big. But I am relishing the fact that I have saved hundreds and hundreds of dollars not getting my hair done every few months.
Well, and David, now we can cornrow it.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been waiting for
no. I can put in a top knot
now. Oh, no, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. We can do top knots and we can braid now. Okay. This is good. This is a positive, right?
Yeah.
So David, can you tell us about where you work, when
Sure.
you landed in New York City, and then also too, like, what are you watching or obsessed with right now? So when did you get to New York? What do you do? And then what are you watching or obsessed with right now? I tell everybody every week, because I have no shame in my game, that my secret obsession and thing for life is Real Housewives of New York City. Now, only before I don't like the current season. I like a Jill Zayn. I like an old school Real Housewives of New York City. I don't like this new I don't like Leah Mob and all that. Just I'm keeping it 200%.
It's so funny because I think well, first of all, my name's David for everybody. I moved to New York City in 2009. I lived in Dallas for a long time where I knew Jasmin. I currently work as a film publicist. So I work for a art house film independent distribution company called Kino, Lorber. We release foreign cinema, documentaries, narratives, and we also have a vibrant home video business. So we are in the business of releasing movies, and my job as director of publicity is to promote everything that we release. So when people are like, I've never heard of that company, if you go to our website, there's like a million films that you have probably heard of. One of our biggest films last year was the Grace Jones documentary. And so my day-to-day at Kino Lorber is promoting cinema and promoting a lot of independent film that we release theatrically. But because of the pandemic, obviously movie theaters are closed. Our company had to pivot to doing digital releasing. And create a new platform called Kino Marquee, where we release movies digitally in different cities and partner with theaters so that theaters get a share of the revenue, including Dallas. You know, we work with some of the Dallas theaters, like the Texas Theater over in Oak Cliff, where I used to live nearby. So it's been really interesting to see how you know, we all live in a world where a lot of us are at home a lot of the times, and how we're consuming entertainment, consuming content. We have a variety of options now with all the streaming channels. And so I guess it segues into what I'm obsessed with now. Well, when the pandemic started, you know, I think, you know, myself and a lot of people that I knew were trying to think about, you know, how to be distracted. So the stuff, it was weird. I like completely powered through, you know, when we were all scared and sitting at home. I mean, I powered through Ozark on Netflix.
Yes.
I powered through and rewatched all of Sex and the City just because it feels so dated to kind of watch it now. So to rewatch it.
Like, who drinks Cosmos? Do we still drink Cosmos?
I mean, I don't. But also, you know, there's so much stuff in that show. It's a little bit transphobic in some places. It feels a little dated. So it's interesting to watch it as, you know, as an older fan. And then, of course, I'm watching The Crown because I love rich white shit. I love the drama with the royal family and like just the upper crust and how this really fascinating family lives in just this exclusive, you know, bubble of wealth and privilege that they happen to inherited wealth. You know, I'm sure it's weird because it's like, I have friends who are like, I can't stand to see that shit. And I'm just like, for me, I'm like, I find it fascinating that this is a family that has extreme inherited wealth that has been handed down for so many hundreds of years. And it was just through power grabs, you know, and you know, one of the things that the narrative that keeps being pushed sort of in history books and also with them is that this is a family that's been touched by God and they've somehow been anointed to be special. But when you're watching the show, it's like revealing, I mean, a lot of the stuff I already knew because I'm just an avid royal, you know, obsessive, but it was just like, you know, they're going through the same drama as all of us, but you know, it's fascinating. You know?
David, I don't know if I told you this. My mom has had a Fergie obsession. Like when I was younger, I knew way too much about Fergie. Like I know about her children, Eugenia, and also too, like when Princess Di passed away, like it was like mourning in our house too.
I mean,
have you seen Selena?
She, you know, they kind of saw her as kind of like I don't want to say the word. What's the right word? They kind of saw her as like a rogue royal,
Yes, she was.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, but I like Fergie because, first of all, she was on Oprah. I don't know, she on her own network. She tried to have her own reality show where she really was being expressive about, some of her issues. And she's very blunt. She's like, I don't have any money. I need to make money. So she does these partnerships with like betting and like Dillard's. And I remember she came to Texas to North Park Mall.
David, she's gone the Tori Spelling route. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
Tori Spelling.
And you know what? She's like, I'm a former royal, but I need to make money. And I think there's something really raw and real about that because we're all trying to make money. We're all trying to survive. We're all trying to hustle, and there's no shame in that. And I kind of like that about her.
So, okay, so we've all had kind of a session. I started watching the Selena thing, but I will tell you that I do stalk anything New York because as I was sharing, like it is my city. And I remember in the beginning of all of this that New York was really kind of the epicenter of all of COVID, right? It was like the start. When we really didn't know anything about it, and we just heard and saw all these images. And from Dallas, from where I'm based from, seeing the perspective of everything that was happening there was so scary and frightening. Can you share a little bit about, because I know you also had experience with COVID too. Can you share like what that was like as a creative working in the city, as just someone who's just young and hanging out and had a vibrant life, and then here comes COVID? Like, what was that like?
It was insane. I mean, I'm not going to mince words about it. It was very scary here in New York. I mean, I think people were checking in on me every day, and then, well, it was weird because I already had heard, was following the news. My brother lives in South Korea. So he in February was like, I'm warning y'all are gonna shut down. Your country's not ready for this shit. It's gonna be scary. You need to stock up. I was like, really? He's like, and he was telling me all the things that were going on in South Korea. They were shutting down, people were getting sick. Like in his neighborhood, there was like a cult, and like one woman was sick, and like cases went from 300 to 3,000. He was like, you guys are not ready for that. And I was like, what? And I remember physically shouting out in my office, hey guys, my brother's like telling me shit's gonna hit the fan. I don't know, I'm a little nervous. And they were like, oh, you're just being an alarmist, whatever. Like, it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna spread over here. But I was already like squirreling. I was already going to the grocery and squirreling away stuff and like finding hand sanitizer. And then we actually were in the middle of a major, major movie release actually in New York. And it was, for our company, it was like the biggest movie that we had prepped for to release marketing PR wise. We had already opened in theaters. The movie was called Bacurau. It's a Brazilian thriller with Sonia Braga and Udo Kier. And the directors had flown in, and then we were just kind of monitoring the news. And almost every hour, we were just getting lots of mixed messages from De Blasio. He was actually encouraging people, no, you need to go out and support, your theater. And people were getting scared, so we were getting mixed messages. And then shit hit the fan. Like things started to close down one by one. And I think as soon as like Lincoln Center closed down and some of the institutions started closing down, Broadway, it was getting a little scary. And we had to hustle and get our directors out of New York because they were afraid that they would be trapped here. And I just really remember being out with my coworker. I was like, I think this is the last time we're all gonna like be out here drinking, having a beer. I don't know. And after we had gotten our directors out, and then I think it was that Thursday or Friday, shit really hit the fan and everything shut down. People were freaking out. And I immediately, like a couple days later, got really sick. So I got so sick. It was the sickest I've ever been. I was like, shit, I probably have this. I went to City MD. At the time, there was not even a lot of information about testing. And they were like, you don't qualify to get the test because there wasn't a lot of COVID tests going around. You had to meet all these criteria. Like,
Was this back in March, David?
Yeah, you had to like have been traveling or been exposed specifically, and And they were like, oh, we'll test you for the flu, you know? And I tested negative for the flu. And they're like, okay, you need to go home right now and like not move and like not leave your house. So I'm positive I had it because I had all the symptoms. And then since then, I've gotten tested twice, 2 different periods for antibodies, you know, and they tested positive. And so within all this, we had to shift our entire business to Zoom meetings and figuring out how to troubleshoot, you know, and release films. And it was scary. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you know, I have to say, for New Yorkers who are very resilient, some people fled and went home to, you know, Texas or wherever they're from, and some people, a lot of people stayed. But I just remember when after I got better, after like 3 weeks of hell where I was very sick, I went for a walk through Washington Square Park, and it was like The Walking Dead. It was like empty. Like people were really, honestly, for the most part, taking it seriously. They weren't taking the subway.
David, I saw those images of Times Square with like no one there.
Yeah.
It was like a zombie movie.
Yeah, and it was really scary, and I think a lot of people around the country were watching us. They were watching LA, and I had a friend in Dallas that was like, "Yeah, but you guys are all clustered together, you know." Like I'm like, bitch, I see that you're still going out in Dallas. I'm warning you, it's gonna hit Dallas. Like it's gonna hit some of these smaller towns or smaller cities, and this is not going away. I'm just warning you, like, you know, everyone should be emotionally and mentally ready for it. And I think in a lot of ways, I think New Yorkers had gone through it, and that then it started to hit a lot of the other cities nationwide. But then as we see, as the shit show of our country is, there were some areas that had different, you know, that governors who were encouraging people to go out and support businesses, and others that were, you know, not encouraging people to wear masks full time. And I do have to say, you know, at least in New York, I feel safe because I feel like for the most part, everyone wears a mask here. Like there is no issue of this is my right to wear a mask or not wear a mask. Nobody is debating that. Everyone here is wearing masks. They take it very seriously. On the subways, when I go on the subways, which I still do, people distance. So any of the sort of news or, you know, oh, I heard, you know, this and this are just kind of anomalies. For the most part, people here are very respectful and they get it because they knew how bad it was. I mean, there was like body trucks all over Brooklyn. And, you know, I know that everyone in New York, the one thing that they remember, that I think they're going to remember, is you were hearing sirens 24/7, you know, because there were ambulances everywhere. People were dying, about like 800 people a day. And that was really scary, you know. And I think people, for the most part now, in New York, are still cautious. And there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of, I don't want to say the word shaming, but people are still surprised when, you know, we go out and there's like people eating indoors. That's still shocking to me. Like, you know, like that's very shocking to me that people are doing that. But I think New York
You haven't been back home to Texas, have you?
No.
Okay.
I unfortunately am not going to go to Texas for the holidays, and I'm going to stay here. And I think, you know, it was scary. It kind of, I think in a way, has made New York reset itself, you know, but it was amazing to also see how people banded together to, you know, take this pandemic seriously, you know, and I think, you know, anyone who says that New Yorkers weren't like following the rules or they were doing whatever they want, like I was like very proud of New York, you know. I was very proud that there were days when I would go for walks and would see no one because people stayed in. And you know, there were some things that were very special in Brooklyn. Like people, there was like a certain blocks where people at 7 o'clock would go out and have little like distance dance parties, you know. And in an area where I lived at 7 o'clock every day, there was one person in this building that would just blast disco at 7, and people would come out and dance and cheer for the workers. And so it made me really proud to be a New Yorker. You know, I'm you know, I'm a kind of a ride or die, New Yorker since I've been here. So,
and how long have you been there now, David?
It'll be like 11 years.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, and there's still a lot to do. I mean, I think now that the word that people have used is like, oh, the city's starting to wake up a little bit, because safety measures are in place. People all know that they need to wear a mask. The hugest thing that happened here was that people realized, okay, it's safe to be outdoors. So people were going outdoors. It was nice. Distancing, and like people are going out on patios to drink and eat outside and be social outside. But also the museums are all started to open, and that's been kind of a game changer for us.
So I'm curious now. Now we have a couple of images. Now I'm going to try to share these. If not, David will have to pivot because it's still, yeah. But can you tell us, I know we talked a little bit about, so just from the idea, one of the reasons why I also wanted you to come on, and Roger in the comments is being very saucy this day, trying to count up our ages, David. He goes, kind of messy this morning. David moved there.
We graduated 11 years ago. We'll leave it at that. I moved to New York right after college.
Thanks, David. Yes, exactly. It was 11 years ago. But this whole idea of arts and culture, like regardless of the stuff that's happening around us, arts and culture is here. Like we have to create. And like, I love that one of the things about New York, I love is this idea of culture and community kind of like converging together. And I think one of the things that's interesting is, so down here at the Contemporary Museum of Houston, they have, I talked to the artistic director, and she said they've had a resurgence of artists, of creativity happening during the pandemic. And I think that's what's happening there too. Can you talk, while I try to find one of your images, can you talk about maybe one of your films that you guys send this pivot for Kino Lorber, like that's amazing. I know you've had a couple of them that came out, I think from Black Lives Matter, but maybe one film that should be on our radar?
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think. Well, we've had a really interesting year because even though we had the pandemic, we continue to release films through digital. And the lovely thing about digital is it doesn't cost us money to like ship DCPs. Our marketing guru, who is my best friend at work, and myself, we do all the PR and marketing, and a lot of the PR and marketing in-house, and we're hustling to get the word out into different cities. If you go to our platform, kinonow.com, there's a lot of new films that are streaming. And there's a lot of Cannes and award-winning, Sundance award-winning films. I'm trying to think. The ones that are my favorite are Bacurau. It's a Brazilian thriller with Sonia Braga. And then another one that we worked on was called Beanpole. It's a Russian, beautifully shot Russian drama that was shortlisted for the Oscars. But, docs are our bread and butter. And so we worked on a lot of docs. A fun one that we did was about Helmut Newton, the fashion photographer. So, I would just encourage everyone to go to kinonow.com. We have like about 1,000 movies on there. Lots of fun stuff. Oh.
So I'm going to share one of your images. So David shared a couple of images just to kind of give us a perspective and just get your insight on a couple of things happening. So I'm going to share one of them and you can tell us what this is about. Oh, wait, I just found it. 1 second. Also, David, while I'm pulling up your image, you said that, you didn't tell us, why did you move to New York?
Oh gosh, it's a long story. First of all, I also wanted to move to New York, and for everybody here, when I was in college, Jasmin and I and some others were part of a group called the Student Model UN, and we came to New York and totally
Taylor,
our friend who's on here. We see our friend Taylor. She had never gone.
Who's our fashionista, then and now still. She was our fashionista of our group.
Yeah, I was just overwhelmed. I mean, to be that age, in college to be like 18, 19 and come to New York, I was like, wow, how do people live here? How do they navigate this space? There's so much, activity going on. It's over, you know, sensory overload. And then I moved because I actually was in Dallas and I was a reporter at the Dallas Morning News. And Jasmin and I worked there together too. She was in sales. And frankly, I got laid off. And I was going through a moment of personal crisis. I was going through a breakup with an ex-boyfriend who I'd been with for 7 years. And I was like, if I don't move to New York now, I'll never do it. And I was very lucky in the sense that I just started getting my resume out. I started hustling to, reconnect with people that I was connected with before. And then I got hired at my first PR agency here called PMK. And then I had to move here within 2 weeks and move my entire life. So this first image, okay, so, this is pretty generic, but I have to say, it's one of those moments in New York where I was going for a walk and I had walked through Central Park and I was like, you know what? I need to get in my steps because I've been lazy eating at home. So I was walking and then I walked past Rockefeller Center and I was like, okay, I want to see the tree, I guess, get in the holiday spirit. And shockingly, there was still a lot of tourists, but, they were really corralling them to in a certain path where people weren't clustered together too much. So I had to take a shot. So,
Well, this is like the most, I know, yeah. And I mean, even like St. Patrick's Cathedral, I think that's one of my secret wedding spots, right? Because I heard there was like a 3-year waiting list or something to get married there. David, but that church, I know, right? That church is so iconic in this little area. I mean, no matter where you are, it's just a beautiful. That's why I was glad you included this image because I was excited to see that there's people still here and they're still having the Christmas.
They are. I think there's tourists who are still coming, but it's funny because I think a lot of New Yorkers are kind of relishing the fact that it's not too overrun.
Yeah, yeah.
I went to the museum and I was like, wow, it's not crazy packed, and they time it so that there's not the capacity is much less. So museums are a big deal. This is the Guggenheim, which I went to the other week, and this is an exhibit going on right now by Rem Koolhaas and the AMO, which is a think tank, where the whole exhibit focuses on countryside, the future, but also city life and how city life has overtaken the countryside and draining economic resources around the world. It's very heavy, but it is fascinating. I spent 3 hours there, but just being able to get out of your house and be in a different space where you can engage with art is very important. And
I think too, just museums in general and bigger cities. So whether it's Chicago or New York, I think how we engage museums, because I'm a member of our museums here too. I think our Fort Worth Museum is actually better than the Dallas one, but but I think the way people engage with museums in New York City or even Chicago too is different. I will spend hours at a museum. My sister and I, last time we went there, we were at the Met and we were there for 6 hours. I don't know what you know what it was? It's because it was the fashion exhibit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was just a big crowd to get there. But just spending time in a museum, just thinking, talking, dreaming. I think that's one of the things I love about New York City. I don't know what causes that there that we don't have that in other cities.
Yeah, I think support, that's the thing that's lovely about New York City is there's no question that the arts is supported here. And it's a democratic thing for all, it's not, art is just not for rich people. I mean, art buying is, but consuming art and supporting the art institutions here is important. And that was the one thing when museums started opening, you can get a time ticket and you can kind of transport to another realm for a little bit, and that's been kind of a life, it's a lifeline for a lot of people here.
And art really is honestly too a political statement. It really is.
Completely, yes.
Totally, yeah. Tell us about.
Oh my God. So one of the things I've been doing when I get bored and stir crazy in my house is, I kind of try to explore different areas. And one area that I'm trying to think, I had to go. Oh, I wanted to get, like, I saw on Instagram there was like a vintage lamp that I needed to get in Bushwick. And so I lived near that area like 8 years ago, and I hadn't gone back in a long ass time. So I went to get this vintage lamp, and then I was like, wow, this neighborhood is blown up in a way that I was shocked. Like it looked much more vibrant than when I lived in that area. And I ended up spending like 5 hours just walking around and, just, I think, thrifting and vintage shopping. This is a store that is in Bushwick, and I was just like, I spent like 2 hours in here just looking at everything. They had like some crazy, um, really great finds. And so I think just getting out of your house, exploring different neighborhoods, that's something people have been doing.
And the walkability too, right? So like,
Yeah.
I think other cities have tried to kind of replicate a little
That's
bit.
the advantage here. I think people are like, I mean, I love having a car and I love driving. I think living in New York, the chance to just, every day is a little bit different. You don't know sometimes where you can end up. And this was one of those times where I just was exploring this neighborhood. I was like, damn, there's like a Vietnamese restaurant. There's like, a fried chicken, like new, like bougie, like, fried chicken sandwich place I have to try. And then I stumbled upon the store and it just was really special. It's in Bushwick. And there's lots of stores like this in Bushwick.
What's so crazy is that, depending on where you are in New York City, like it's like you're still exploring the city. Like
I do. I still learn about the city a lot. There are areas I still am too lazy to really like dive into, like Bronx and Queens and Inwood, way uptown. And I think during the pandemic, I think it's given people, a lot of my friends bike ride or they run, and like it's just, getting the sense of like getting away, from your personal space and exploring different areas. It's given people the liberty to take the time to really explore.
Yeah, and also too how those neighborhoods are fueled by the culture, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about this one.
Okay, so one of the things that I have been doing, and some people have been doing, it is very cost effective to get the fuck out of New York City and kind of get away from it all. So Beacon is an art town that is only an hour and a half away from Grand Central Station. You take the Metro North, and it's interesting because I had some friends who were looking at real estate there, and everyone is a lot of people are flocking there to live there because I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of tired of city life and they want to be somewhere a little bit smaller but still close to New York, and Beacon is one of them. These are the Beacon like little falls are in the town. It's an art town, so there's lots of galleries. There's very amazing restaurants. Dia Beacon is there, which is a very famous museum. It's one of those towns that is very accessible off the Metro North and off the train, and I think it's been kind of a lifesaver for a lot of people to be able to get in touch with nature and get away. And because everybody is all about coming to Manhattan and running around, but to me, like there's so many amazing towns and a lot of specialness with upstate New York, and it's accessible by train. And if you have access to a car rental, you can even go further and like visit a lot of really amazing places.
I love that. Now I didn't pull up because we only have a couple minutes. I didn't pull up your the last photo, but and it's actually where you live, and it's Brooklyn. So can you in our last few minutes tell us what's happening in Brooklyn? Like, why did you move to Brooklyn? What if we decide to start making our like treks back to New York City? And of course, we should explore everything. But like, tell us a little bit about life in Brooklyn right now.
I mean, So I've lived in Brooklyn like 3 different times. Like I'm one of those New Yorkers that moves around a lot because you're always trying to find a deal or like somebody's room open is cheaper. So I went from Greenpoint to Harlem, and I love Harlem because I had a really amazing deal there with a friend. And then I actually had a cousin who has left New York City, and she has a 1 bedroom that was very cost effective, and it was one of those New York magic deals. So then I
What do
moved
you consider cost effective?
back. Like I don't know, like I guess I think rent here is insane, and the rents are going down. So I pay like around like almost 1,400 for a 1 bedroom, which is
Oh,
very
that's not
doable.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a magic deal, and when you get a magic deal, you have to like jump on it. And I actually live right by Barclays Center, which is we I wish we had more time to touch on it. Um, a huge center for the concert venue. It's a concert venue and a sports venue, but a lot of the protests have been. It's been a important meeting ground for the Black Lives Matter protests and the social justice movements going on. And that's also been something that has been very invigorating for the city and for arts and culture in general. As we all know, there's a reckoning happening that is very long overdue, that's very necessary, with Black Lives Matter and how people of color are being treated. And this is across the board. I mean, this is in the arts as well. These conversations are long overdue, and people are angry. And also, I'm going to say it: the New York Police Department has not responded well at all. And like I've seen it for myself, and how they have been reacting and overreacting to the protesters. And it's been, there's a lot of work to be done, and even in a place like New York City.
Well, first of all, I think we're gonna have to have a part two because there's so much to talk about, right? Like I have 50 million questions for you, just thinking about it. And Faith in the chat actually shared a really great point that we can still connect virtually,
Yeah.
with the museums, which is probably, there's some silver linings this year, right? Of course, it's been a really hard year, but that's the one thing that's been really amazing is to be able to connect with everyone, which is why I wanted to do this. The idea of this conversation was because we can still be exploring and supporting from wherever we are, right? And we can still be engaging. And when it does open up for everyone, they feel comfortable. Now it's like we kind of have a roadmap, and hopefully we've got some new connections. So David, in a few last words, any last things you want to share with us about your city, what you're working on?
I think, I love New York. I think New York is for everyone. It's not, for a lot of people, it is not cost effective to live here because it is crazy expensive. And then I think every New Yorker questions like why they live here sometimes. It's like a boyfriend that you keep going back to who's, sometimes they annoy you, but sometimes you're like, oh, you're in love. And
You wish
like,
you could quit them. You wish you could quit them.
yeah. And I think there's a lot like to explore here, and I think not having a car makes a huge difference to happenstance and serendipity and exploring, and I think it is pretty safe for people to visit New York. So if you want to visit New York, I would do the research, make sure you travel here safely. Museums are open, restaurants are open, and I would recommend only sitting outdoors, even if it's cold. Like I just had lunch with my friend in the cold yesterday, not eating indoors. And it's a little bit, nice to sort of be here when it's not like crazy overrun with tourists. But I would caution, look at the safety measures, make sure you're quarantined.
We have a question. What about Prospect Park?
I live right between Prospect Park and Fort Greene, and parks are important. Like they all are free to everyone, and even in this weather, I love going on Cold Heights. So I love shopping. I love going to the park. I love going to the museums. The person that mentioned virtual, that's the beauty of New York. A lot of these programs for theater and like museums, there's a lot of virtual programs, and it's smart because they're trying to reach out to and online communities all over the world. and it's been very smart and engaging and interesting to see how arts and culture has been fueled by presenting their work online. You know, there's a lot of theater online. That's the number one thing that how that community, even though everything's shut down, has been pivoting. You know, and museums have a lot of different tours and things. So
I love that.
Correct.
So I'll get the Brazilian documentary because I feel like that sounds like something I should be doing this weekend.
Oh, it's a joyride.
Okay, I will get that title. So I'll send an email if you guys register. I'll send an email. David, I'll probably connect you to get a couple links of some shows or something that everyone should.
Yeah, I'm glad to compile a list of like to-dos for everyone. Your like favorite things to do.
That would be fun. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. And David, I'm for sure gonna have to do a part 2 because we didn't even talk about love and romance in the Big Apple. That's probably gonna be our next conversation.
Love and romance. Oh God, girl, that's like 3 hours.
And just going out and having fun, social, like how do you actually stay social, have fun and meet people. So we'll do a part 2, but thank you all for joining us, whether you join us Zoom or Facebook Live. Next week is the last one of these. Like, it's time to say goodbye to this year. I'm ready to say bye. But it's the last 45 and we're ending on a kind of global note. You know, with Zoom, as David mentioned, like we really have no boundaries when it comes to connecting with people, you know, building our networks, building a brand. And so you can really, this is the time now to think about yourself and how do you build your brand globally. There's no stopping you now. And so we have very special guests next week, Roger Bissell, who has just launched a platform or will be launching a platform called Eat, Drink, Explore. So I would love for you guys to join us. That's going to be so much fun. It's the last one. I guess I'll have to do glitter next week for that one since it's the last one too. It's the same link though. So same Zoom link. If you want to bookmark it for next week at same time. So thank you all for joining us. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And we're almost here. Like we're at the final stretch for 2020. So David, thank you. I love you. And I will hopefully get to see you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.